Subscribe if you dare. Like if you can handle the truth. Comment if you think you know how this ends, because once you step into this case, there's no turning back. The rain had already erased half the evidence by the time the first patrol car arrived. A body lay face down in the alley behind Mercer Street, soaked pavement reflecting blue and red lights like broken glass. The victim was a woman in her early 30s, coat torn, one shoe missing, her hand clenched around nothing. Steam rose from the asphalt as if the city itself was exhaling after holding its breath too long. Detective Daniel Reeves stood at the edge of the tape, watching officers move too carefully, too quietly. He'd seen this posture before, the one cops take when something feels wrong beyond the obvious. No witnesses. No weapon. No immediate motive. Just a dead woman in the wrong place at the wrong time. Her name was later confirmed as Laura Whitman. Marketing consultant. No criminal record. No known enemies. Married once, divorced quietly. Lived alone. The kind of person who vanished into a crowd without leaving a ripple. Reeves stepped under the tape, boots splashing softly. He knelt near the body, careful not to disturb what little the rain hadn't destroyed. There were no defensive wounds. No signs of a struggle. That alone unsettled him. Crimes of opportunity were usually messy. This felt deliberate. Controlled. Cause of death? He asked. Preliminary looks like strangulation, the medical examiner replied. Hands, maybe forearm. Whoever did it knew what they were doing. Reeves straightened slowly. Strangulation took time. It required proximity. It meant the killer had looked her in the face. By dawn, the alley was empty again. Cleaned. Forgotten by the city. But the case had already begun to spread through the department like a low fever. Within hours, the task force was assembled. Detective Mara Ellison, sharp-eyed and relentless, was assigned as lead investigator. Reeves was paired with her as senior support. They'd worked together before. Trusted each other. That mattered. At the first briefing, they pinned Laura's photo to the board. Smiling. Alive. A stranger to everyone in the room. No CCTV footage from the alley. A nearby camera had been, under maintenance, that night. A bartender 2 blocks away remembered a woman matching Laura's description walking alone, but nothing else. Her phone was missing. Her purse was found later in a trash bin 6 streets away, emptied with care. This wasn't random, Ellison said. Someone followed her. Or she met someone willingly. Reeves nodded, but his eyes were on the timeline. Laura left her office at 8:42 p.m. She was dead by 9:15. 33 minutes. The first suspect emerged quickly, her ex-husband, Thomas Whitman. Bitter divorce. Financial disputes. A classic start. But Thomas had an airtight alibi, corroborated by traffic cameras and a dozen coworkers at a corporate event across town. Then there was the coworker who'd sent one too many late-night messages. Cleared. A neighbor who complained about noise. Cleared. Every lead collapsed under scrutiny. Days turned into weeks. Media attention grew. Headlines asked how a woman could be killed so cleanly in the heart of the city without anyone seeing a thing. And through it all, one person never left the investigation. Detective Daniel Reeves. He was everywhere. At every briefing. Every late-night evidence review. He volunteered to rewalk Laura's route home, to re-interview witnesses already cleared, to sit with the forensic team combing through fibers that led nowhere. He became the quiet constant in a case defined by absence. No one questioned it. Reeves had a reputation, steady, reliable, obsessive in the best way. If anything, his dedication reassured the team. But Mara Ellison noticed something else. Reeves remembered details too easily. Things that weren't in the reports. The exact angle of Laura's body. The specific knot in the torn seam of her coat. The way her hand had been clenched. She was holding something, he said once, casually, weeks after the fact. Ellison looked up. The me never confirmed that. Reeves paused, just for a second. Then shrugged. Habit. Probably nothing. The break in the case came on day 29. A technician recovered partial data from Laura's damaged phone backup. One unsent draft message, timestamped minutes before her death. No recipient. Just 6 words. "I think he knows I remember." No context. No name. Ellison stared at the screen, heart pounding. "Remember what?" Reeves leaned in, eyes fixed on the words. His reflection hovered faintly on the glass. "That," he said quietly, "changes everything." 3 hours later, a sealed box arrived from evidence storage, items misfiled from the original scene. Inside was Laura's missing shoe. And hidden in the sole, folded so tightly it was almost missed, was a small, creased photograph. When they opened it, the room went silent. Because the image wasn't of Laura. It was of a man standing in the same alley, taken years earlier. And the man was wearing a detective's badge. The room felt smaller once the photograph was pinned to the board. Mara Ellison stood with her arms crossed, staring at the grainy image under harsh fluorescent light. The alley was unmistakable. Same brick pattern, same rusted fire escape, same narrow mouth opening onto Mercer Street. Timestamped nearly 8 years earlier. And there he was. Not clearly enough to identify a face, but clearly enough to recognize posture, height, and the glint of metal at his chest. A badge. Law enforcement. Standing exactly where Laura Whitman would later die. "Who took this?" Ellison asked. "Unknown," replied the analyst. "No fingerprints. No lab markings. It's old-school film. Whoever hid it didn't want it traced." Reeves stood a few feet back, hands in his pockets, studying the photo like a puzzle he almost remembered solving. "That alley was part of a narcotics sweep back then," he said. "Plainclothes operations. Could have been anyone." Ellison turned to him. "Including you?" Reeves met her eyes without hesitation. "Including me." The honesty disarmed her. Too easy. Too smooth. The task force dug into cold archives. 8 years ago, a series of low-profile deaths had occurred within a 5-block radius of Mercer Street. Overdoses. Apparent suicides. Accidents. None of them triggered full homicide investigations. All closed quietly. One name surfaced again and again in the background of those reports, not as a suspect, but as a responder, a consultant, a supporting officer who helped clarify circumstances. Daniel Reeves. It still didn't make sense. Reeves had joined the department with glowing recommendations. No complaints. No disciplinary history. He was the kind of cop internal affairs forgot existed. Ellison tried to dismiss the unease crawling up her spine. Correlation wasn't guilt. But something was wrong. Laura Whitman hadn't been random. She'd remembered something. And someone had realized that memory was dangerous. Ellison requested Laura's old employment records. Buried in a decade-old resume entry was a line most people would skim past: Administrative Assistant, City Legal Records Office. Ellison's breath caught. The Legal Records Office handled sealed files. Evidence inventories. Internal disciplinary reports that never made it to court. Laura had worked there during the same period the Mercer Street deaths occurred. Ellison closed her office door and locked it. She pulled Reeves' personnel file from the cabinet and spread it across her desk. Dates aligned too cleanly. He'd been assigned to a special internal review unit for 6 months, unlisted duties, classified casework. The kind of assignment that left paper trails only if someone wanted them found. She leaned back, staring at the ceiling, forcing herself to slow down. If Reeves was involved, confronting him prematurely would be dangerous. He knew procedure. He knew surveillance blind spots. He knew how investigations failed. And he was still inside the investigation. Ellison decided to test him. The next morning, she floated a lie during briefing. "We found a fingerprint on the photo," she said casually. "Partial match pending." Reeves didn't react immediately. Then, a subtle shift, his jaw tightened, just barely. "Whose print?" he asked. "Don't know yet." Another pause. "Let me know when you do." That afternoon, Ellison assigned Reeves to re-interview an old witness from one of the 8-year-old cases. Someone insignificant. Someone who wouldn't reveal anything new. Instead, Ellison followed him. From an unmarked car, she watched Reeves park 2 blocks short of the address. He didn't go inside. He made a call, spoke quietly, then sat there for almost 10 minutes before driving away. Ellison checked the witness later. He hadn't been contacted. The lie had worked. That night, Ellison reviewed security logs from the precinct. Someone had accessed the evidence locker after hours. No forced entry. No alarm. Just a badge swipe logged under a generic admin override. Only 2 people had that clearance. Ellison was one of them. The other was Reeves. Before she could escalate, the case took another turn. A body was found. Male. Mid-40s. Dead in his apartment. Official cause: suicide. No sign of forced entry. But on the kitchen table sat an envelope with Laura Whitman's name written across the front. Inside was a photocopy of the same photograph. And a handwritten note beneath it. He never left. Ellison felt the room tilt. This wasn't cleanup anymore. It was escalation. Someone was panicking. Someone was tying loose ends. And whoever it was knew exactly how the system worked, because they were part of it. Ellison looked at the precinct directory on her phone. Reeves' office light was still on. She realized then the most dangerous truth of all. The killer wasn't hiding from the investigation. He was guiding it. And if Ellison made one wrong move, she wouldn't just lose the case. She'd become part of it. Mara Ellison didn't confront Daniel Reeves. Not yet. She knew better than to corner a man who understood every rule of the hunt. Reeves wasn't reckless. He wasn't impulsive. He was patient, disciplined, and, most dangerous of all, calm. If he sensed exposure, he wouldn't run. He'd erase. Instead, Ellison went silent. She filed routine reports. Sat through briefings. Let Reeves believe the case was drifting again, stalled by bureaucracy and bad luck. She watched him carefully, how he spoke less now, how his eyes lingered on evidence photos a second too long, how he asked questions that subtly redirected attention away from timelines and toward motives that didn't fit. He was shaping the narrative. Ellison worked off the books. She contacted an old internal affairs investigator who owed her a favor. Quietly. No emails. No official requests. "What do you know about Reeves?" she asked. There was a long pause on the line. "Officially?" the man said. "Nothing." "And unofficially?" Another pause. Then, "We looked at him once. Years ago. Couldn't make it stick." "Looked at him for what?" "A pattern," he said. "Deaths that made sense alone, but not together. People connected to sealed cases. Evidence clerks. Witnesses who recanted. One detective kept showing up in the margins." Ellison's chest tightened. "Why was it dropped?" "No proof. And every time we got close, something happened. Evidence misplaced. A witness died. A supervisor stepped in." Ellison ended the call and sat in the dark, the city humming outside her window. Reeves wasn't just killing. He was curating. She returned to Laura Whitman's draft message. "I think he knows I remember." Laura hadn't been investigating. She'd been scared. Ellison dug into Laura's access logs at the legal records office. Buried among routine file views was one anomaly, a sealed internal report accessed twice in one night, months before Laura's death. The report concerned a misconduct investigation from 8 years ago. Subject: Detective Daniel Reeves. Allegation: evidence manipulation leading to wrongful case closures. Outcome: inconclusive. File sealed. Ellison felt cold clarity settle in. Laura had seen it. And once Reeves realized she remembered, the clock started ticking. Ellison prepared her move carefully. She requested a quiet meeting with Reeves under the pretense of reviewing case fatigue options. No witnesses. No recording devices, at least none he would expect. They met in interview room C, the smallest one. Bare walls. One table. 2 chairs. Reeves smiled as he sat down. You look tired, he said. We both do. Ellison slid the photograph across the table. This was taken 8 years ago. Reeves glanced at it. So we think. And Laura Whitman saw a report connected to it, Ellison said. A report with your name on it. Reeves leaned back, studying her now. Really studying her. You ever notice, he said calmly, how some people don't know when to leave the past alone? Ellison's hand rested near her jacket pocket, where her phone was already recording, not officially, but enough. You killed her, she said. Not as an accusation. As a statement. Reeves didn't deny it. She wasn't supposed to die, he replied. None of them were. They were corrections. Loose ends that threatened to unravel bigger mistakes. Ellison's pulse hammered. You strangled her. Reeves exhaled slowly. She recognized the alley. Asked the wrong question? Memory is dangerous. Why stay? Ellison asked. Why not disappear? Reeves smiled, thin and sad. Because investigations are safest from the inside. Before Ellison could speak again, the door opened. Uniformed officers flooded the room. Reeves didn't resist. He stood, adjusted his cuffs, and met Ellison's eyes one last time. You'll never know how many cases I saved, he said quietly. The trial was swift. Overwhelming evidence surfaced once the seal was broken. Misfiled reports, altered logs, witness intimidation hidden behind procedure. Reeves was convicted on multiple counts, including Laura Whitman's murder. The city exhaled. 3 months later, Ellison stood alone in the evidence archive, preparing files for permanent closure. The photograph was sealed inside a final box. As she turned to leave, she noticed something she'd missed before. A second figure, barely visible in the background of the photo. Another badge. Another silhouette. Ellison froze. The case was closed. But the investigation had never really ended. And somewhere in the system, someone else was still watching. If you think this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it.